Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call, particularly those of you calling in for the first time and those that will be listening to the replay over the next 24 to 48 hours. We like to move quickly through these calls. We know you're busy people. And you have other things to do. We like to spend a few minutes talking about the revaluation of these currencies, a few minutes talking about the program we've put into place to assist you, and then we go to a brief Q&A. So let's go ahead and get started for today. It's May 8th. First, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not either the purveyor, seller, or purchaser of these currencies. We're not advocating the sale or purchase of these currencies, but we are in fact sharing with you, as rather substantial currency holders ourselves, the information that we think is of importance. The first thing I'd like to talk about is with regard to the Iraqi dinar, and we continue to believe that the dinar is the base currency for this reset. And the window for the dinar is quite wide. Best case scenario from our perspective is 60 to 90 days on the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. Worst case scenario would push us to January of 2020 with their new budget at that time, and then they'd be able to reinstitute their currency. Now, I know that that's disappointing for some people, but for those of us that have had currencies for as long as a decade, another 6 months is not an insurmountable hurdle to overcome, something that we can deal with. But there is the possibility, and I'm going to get into it today with the reinstitution earlier than that. The primary issue having to do with Iraq right now is the Iranian involvement. They're involved in a number of ways. They threaten to counterfeit the provisional currency, and certainly the new currency once it comes out, particularly if it reinstitutes. There are corrupt Iranian officials that are not only skimming money from the currency auctions, but they're funneling that money to Iran as well in order to circumvent the international sanctions against Iran. And then, of course, there are the Revolutionary Guard militias that are running around in country in Iraq. Bear in mind that they oppose the non-sectarian government in Iraq. They want something along the lines of their Shia theocracy in Iran. So all of these issues do pose a problem, and this is the proximate cause, frankly, for the delay in the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. Now, to that end, Secretary of State Pompeo has been in country in Iraq and has met with Iraqi officials to discuss the Iranian threat and the various ways that Iran has interjected itself. Pompeo has assured the government that the 5,500 U.S. troops that are in country in Iraq, primarily to push against the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, are going to remain. United States Carrier Strike Force is now positioned in the Mediterranean, and they are carrying a B-52 bomber task force, which is a sizable force and which can respond immediately to anything that might be involved with Iran. Pompeo has also made a commitment to the Iranians that the United States will respond to any attack either from the Iranian military proper or any Iranian proxies like the Revolutionary Guard in Iraq, or any Iranian involvement in the Syrian missile sites that are north of Iraq. So it is possible under these circumstances for Iraq to continue to move toward a reinstitution with the assurance that they will enjoy the protection of the United States and other coalition forces. What has to happen, though, in order for a reinstitution in 2019 would be the formation of the new government, which needs to be resolved by the end of June. They would need to redo the 2019 budget, which in and of itself would take a minimum of 30 days, and they need to stop the corrupt currency auctions. Now, it's not probable that all of this will occur in the next, say, 30 to 60 days. allowing for a reinstitution in the next 60 to 90 days, but it is possible. The IMF, interestingly enough, and counterintuitively, is pushing for Iraq to go ahead and reinstitute their currency, even in this situation. The thinking there, I would assume, is that their view is the only way to totally, completely separate Iraq from Iran is to allow their currency to reinstitute and then revalue it globally, which would then allow Iraq to enter into international contracts with other countries and not be involved with Iran at all, and specifically with the need for their natural gas until their electric grid is back up. So again, we're looking at a window on the upside of 60 to 90 days, but theoretically could get pushed all the way to January of 2020. This does provide individuals who have not as yet gotten their affairs in order or who may not understand what that might involve time to do so. While this window does seem like it could extend as far as the next 6 to 7 months, because we never know exactly when this is going to hit, once you understand what needs to be done to get your affairs in order, it makes no sense to wait because you might miss your window if you do so. Trusts Unlimited has put a turnkey program in place to assist you. It's a two-phased program. Phase 1 is pre-RV. Phase 2 is post-RV. Pre-RV involves the establishment of a pre-RV package of asset protection trusts and the assignment of your currencies on paper to that trust package. Post-RV, Phase 2 involves all of the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you after the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies. So let's start with Phase 1, which is the establishment of your pre-RV package of asset protection trusts. Very simply, a trust is a legal instrument one can establish to hold, to manage, and to protect assets. Trust can fall into some basic categories. For example, a trust can be revocable or a trust can be irrevocable. In order to have the asset protection you're going to need and want, you're going to need to establish a package of irrevocable trusts, and that package must be established prior to the revaluation of these currencies. Now, before I get into the rationale for that, I'd like to just briefly mention some of the other asset protection instruments that people have utilized. There are, for example, LLCs and sub-S corporations. They do provide limited liability, and they do tend to separate business assets from personal assets. But unfortunately, courts have ruled that LLCs and sub-S corporations, where the majority of the stock is held by either one person, one family, or one closely held group, can be pierced for civil litigation. So these business entities are not appropriate in order to protect these currencies once the revaluation occurs. There are also, as I referred to, revocable trusts. A revocable trust is designed primarily to exempt your estate from probate, and when married couples establish revocable trusts, it doubles their federal estate tax exemption. But revocable trusts do not provide any privacy or asset protection, so they're not going to work for you as well. Now, there are other trusts that are out there. Unfortunately, we run into them from time to time. There is the pure trust. There is the constitutional trust. There are non-grantor trusts. Individuals utilize these trusts because they provide extra control for the settlor, the creator of the trust. The problem with these trusts is they've all been flagged by the IRS, and if you utilize one of these trusts, particularly for a substantial transaction like this revaluation, the IRS is going to probably be calling on you, and worst case scenario, they could actually charge you with fraud. So you're going to want to stay away from those types of trusts. And if you go to our website, and I'll be giving you that information later, we outline the trusts that you need to avoid. Our trust package, in my opinion, is the best asset protection trust available in the contiguous United States. And again, I'm going to explain that and why you need to establish this trust package prior to the revaluation of these currencies. First, by establishing this trust package, you will preserve your privacy and your anonymity. That's because assets held within this trust package are sealed, and the general public will have no knowledge of your net worth or your actual holdings. Second, by establishing this trust package, pre-RV, you will successfully avoid personal IRS scrutiny. If you're holding these currencies in direct title when they revalue, the IRS computers will most likely spit out an audit. And with the potential magnitude of this revaluation relative to your prior year's earnings, you're probably looking at a full-blown 6-year audit. Such an audit would be time-consuming, it would be frustrating, and frankly, it would probably cost you more than our asset protection trust package. On the other hand, if your trust is in place and your currencies are assigned to that trust pre-RV, you will have successfully transferred the taxable event of the revaluation from yourself personally to the trust. Now, that's important for a couple of reasons. First, there's less than a 10% chance of an audit if this revaluation were to occur within the trust. But second, and most importantly, even if the IRS determines to audit your trust, they can't do a 6-year audit. Why? Because the only taxable event within the trust will be the revaluation itself. The third reason you would want to establish this pre-RV asset protection trust package is if you plan on gifting currency to family and friends in certain situations. Philanthropic gifting can always be done on a tax-preferred basis, either pre- or post-RV. But in order to avoid a substantial 40% federal gift tax, you're going to need to gift currencies to family and friends prior to their revaluation. Now, if you're gifting to individuals that you have no problem giving them the currency to exchange for themselves, or giving them the lump sum after you've negotiated the exchange, that can be accomplished outside of a trust with a standard gift letter. But if you are hesitant for any reason to give these individuals the post-RV lump sum, we have created a special gift subtrust within our trust package. By gifting to these individuals through this gift subtrust, their U.S. dollars will be protected along with yours. The language of this subtrust allows you to gift up to a certain amount of a currency or currencies, meaning you can gift the exact U.S. dollar amount you had in mind, irrespective of the exchange rate. But because you're gifting through the trust, you will be able to manage, to invest, and distribute the money to these individuals as you deem appropriate. The fourth reason you'd want to establish this pre-RV asset protection trust package is because it's been structured in such a way as to allow your estate to bypass the cost and delay of probate and the federal estate tax. I'll give you 2 quick scenarios. Scenario number 1, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs an estate of $25 million. Now that estate must go through probate, a process that ordinarily can take anywhere from 6 to 18 months. But probate is a public disclosure process, meaning that the general public would be aware of the size of your estate, who your heirs are, and how much they each stand to inherit. So if anyone feels they have a legitimate claim against you, your estate, or your heirs, they could simply file that claim with a probate court, and that could tie the estate up for years and in some cases even decades. And your heirs will have either limited access or no access at all to their respective inheritance until the probate process is completed. Then there's something called the federal estate tax. This is the tax that the federal government would assess in order for that estate to be transferred to heirs. Under current law, approximately $10 million of that $25 million estate would bypass any federal estate tax, but the balance could be taxed as much as 55%. Scenario number 2, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, you assign those currencies on paper to our asset protection trust package. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs that same estate of $25 million, but this time within our asset protection trust package. As a result, there will be no probate, there will be no public disclosure of your estate, your heirs will have immediate access to their respective inheritance, and the federal estate tax will be zero, saving your heirs as much as 55% of their inheritance. The fifth reason you'd want to establish this pre-RV asset protection trust package is for some very specific asset protection benefits. One pre-RV, one post-RV. Pre-RV, this trust package will allow you to circumvent something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. Now, what does that mean? Under our system of civil procedure, you can only be sued for what you own in direct title or the value of property at the time you transfer it out of title to an entity like our trust package. So let's take the previous example from above. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. You transfer those currencies to the trust pre-RV. Those currencies subsequently were valued for $25 million. You begin to live a lifestyle more reflective of your newfound wealth, and a couple of years down the road, someone sees that you're living rather comfortably and decides for whatever reason that they're going to sue you. Well, this prospective plaintiff has a couple of problems. First, he or she better have a very strong case and very deep pockets, because this trust is structured in such a way as to make it extremely expensive and extremely time-consuming to pursue civil litigation. Second, and most importantly, once this prospective plaintiff learns that pursuant to the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act, the only thing they could ever win by way of a civil award would be $5,000, the value of the property at the time you transferred it to our asset protection trust package, and none of the post-RV value of $25 million, there will be no lawsuit. Post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop loss. This is designed to protect you from future bad acts after you have acquired this wealth. This protection is accomplished through a legal strategy called segregation of assets, and this is how it would work. Again, we'll use the same example. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000, assign the currencies to our trust, they subsequently revalue for $25 million. Now that you have $25 million in trust, you decide to make some purchases. So you purchase a larger primary residence, a vacation home, perhaps a half a dozen rental properties for tax write-off and additional cash flow, a couple of cars, a boat, and let's say an RV. But as you purchase these items, you place each of them in their own separate subtrust, which is part of our package, to be managed by your master trust. Now, why is this important from an asset protection standpoint? Well, let's say one day you're driving one of your new cars, you have an accident, the accident is clearly your fault, and tragically someone is seriously injured or even killed. Well, the family of the victim is going to want to sue you. But remember, civil suits are about monetary awards, and you don't legally own anything. So the plaintiffs would be left to sue the owner of the car that you were driving. Well, who owns that car? One of your subtrusts, of which you are merely the beneficiary. And what's in that subtrust? Merely that one car and the car insurance policy. In that scenario, the car insurance carrier will negotiate an out-of-court settlement with the victim's family. You will not be involved in those rather unpleasant negotiations. The car insurance carrier will repair or replace your car, making you whole. And this is the important factor. All of your other assets are safely protected in the other subtrusts. Now, why are those assets protected in those other subtrusts? It's because under the law, those separate subtrusts are separate legal entities. They're separate legal persons. And the plaintiffs would have no standing to pursue a separate legal person. So this trust package works very much the way a barge would work, where all of the valuable cargo is stored in a series of small compartments. Why? In the event that any compartment is ever breached, the only potential loss would be the cargo in that one compartment. The cargo in the other compartments is safe and secure due to the firewalls, and the barge will never sink. These are the benefits that are available by establishing your trust package prior to the revaluation of these currencies. Now, there is one other benefit, and it's this. If you are, in fact, the holder of one of our pre-RV asset protection trust packages, then you will be eligible to participate in Phase 2, post-RV, all of the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you. I'll just make mention of one here today. Trusts Unlimited will be sponsoring a post-RV seminar to be held in Disney World, Florida, approximately 30 days after the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. Present at that seminar will, of course, be the staff of Trusts Unlimited to assist you with the management and funding of your trust packages post-RV. In addition, many of you have expressed desires to establish scholarship funds, foundational trusts, special needs trusts, and even the more complicated 501c3 and nonprofit trusts. And all of these entities should properly be established after the revaluation of these currencies, where the transfer of funds from your asset protection trust can accommodate the funding of these newly formed entities. We'll also have our tax specialists there to discuss all of the tax implications involved in whatever decisions you may wish to make. We'll have our offshore specialists there as well. They will show you that by establishing offshore title of certain assets, you can substantially reduce and in some cases eliminate future taxes on the reinvestment of the net proceeds from the revaluation itself. We'll also have our independent fee-based wealth managers there as well. It's going to be important to reposition assets after the revaluation for a number of reasons. We know statistically that 95% of all windfalls, however large and from whatever source, are lost within 3 to 5 years due to inexperience, mismanagement, and fraud. We also know that under the new G20 bank bail-in provisions, the failure of banks in the future will no longer be made whole solely through the general taxing authority of the respective governments, but first and foremost by the confiscation of funds at the accounts at those banks. So you're, for obvious reasons, going to want to get money out of the banks and work in other markets. And third, the general global shift from fiat-based to Basel III compliant commodity-based currencies in and of itself is going to create extremely volatile financial markets, and you're going to want a substantial portion of your net worth invested in tangible assets as well. Now, our trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts consisting of one master trust that will hold your assigned pre-RV currencies, and then financial assets like bank accounts and investment accounts post-RV, one optional gift subtrust that can be converted to a standard subtrust at any time, and 8 additional subtrusts to hold physical assets like homes, cars, boats, which subtrusts will only be funded after the revaluation of these currencies. Now, this was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package that we've utilized in the past for our more affluent clients, a package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But when we decided to work with Denarian some years ago, we knew that that price tag was going to be unaffordable. So by back-end loading the trust post-RV, we've been able to reduce the cost to $3,000. There are several ways you can pay for that. If you pay us up front, we'll discount the price further to $2,500, saving you an additional $500. If that's not possible, we do have a deferred payment arrangement. You'd make an initial payment of $525, which sum would basically offset our out-of-pocket costs just to produce and deliver your trust. The balance of the $3,000 would then be paid in $100 monthly installments. We will charge no interest. The only proviso is once the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar occurs, any unpaid balance would need to be paid within 30 days. One other suggestion, we do accept credit cards. Pay us up front with a credit card. Not only will you get the $500 discount, but the minimum payment on your credit card would be substantially less than the $100 a month you would pay under our deferred payment arrangement. But we will work with you in whatever method works best for you. Our objective is to help you get your affairs in order and your trust in place prior to the revaluation of these currencies for all of the reasons that I've stated. Now, we're going to go to Q&A in a moment, but before we do, and for the benefit of our newer callers, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about Trusts Unlimited and why you may want to seriously consider allowing us to assist you. Our trust package was authored by our attorney, Robert Bly. He's been a practicing attorney for over 40 years, specializing in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning. I myself hold degrees in political science, macroeconomics, and finance. I've worked in these areas for over 38 years, and I, along with my clients, were personally involved in the reinstatement of the Kuwaiti dinar in the early 90s. So between the two of us, Robert Bly and I have over 78 years' experience working precisely in these areas, and I frankly know of no firm that can make that claim. Bob and I have been working together for a decade in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning, and it has been disheartening from time to time to see people walk away from sound estate planning and trust creation because of the mistaken belief that by doing so they have somehow lost control of their assets and their affairs. In point of fact, it's just the reverse. Under our system of civil procedure, it's when you hold assets in direct title that you can lose control of them, and invariably it's at precisely those times in life that you need and want control. If you've lived for any length of time, you've either experienced in your own life or through friends and family things like unexpected divorce, permanent incapacitation, the onset of dementia, premature death and prolonged and complicated probate processes. Then there are, of course, investment losses, business losses, and even bankruptcies. The number 2 loss of wealth now in the aggregate, courtesy of the information age, is identity theft. But the number 1 loss of personal wealth remains confiscation through civil litigation. Anything you own in direct title can be taken from you. And the larger your net worth, the more likely you are a target for civil litigation. So in point of fact, the only way that you can manage, protect, and control your assets at all times and in all circumstances is through the establishment of a package of irrevocable trusts, and particularly if you have an asset like these currencies that you're anticipating a substantial increase in value. And we at Trusts Unlimited will do everything we can to help you accomplish your personal and financial objectives both pre- and post-RV as we understand them. Now, again, we're about to go to the Q&A. When we do, I will be providing you all of our contact information. So if the things we've discussed are of interest to you, I suggest you have a pen and paper ready so you can write this information down. We will be happy to send you our initial no-obligation package. It has a lot of information about us, about the revaluation, about trusts in general. You can review that package. Contact us if you have any questions. There will be no consultation fee. If you should decide to proceed with the establishment of a package of pre-RV asset protection trusts, everything you need is included in the package. So I'm going to open the Q&A. When I do, we got 2 quick rules on the Q&A. We take no service calls. This call is reserved for people that have general questions about Trusts Unlimited and the services that we provide. And second, for obvious reasons, your name and number must be on the screen in order to participate in the Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and open up now. And while I'm waiting for any potential questions, I'd like to give you our contact information. You can go to our website, which is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc.com. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc@gmail.com. Our phone service is 307-274-4122. If you'd like to listen to a recent conference call playback, or if you'd be kind enough to refer us to someone that might be interested in our services, you can either go to YouTube and then go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can go to IQD calls and go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can simply dial the same number that you dialed for this live call this afternoon with the exception of the last digit. Rather than dialing 4, you'll dial 3, and then use the same access code, which is 394-POUND. If you'd like to be included on our email list, you can go to our website, go to the bottom, enter your name and email address where indicated. You should be on our email list within 24 hours. Bear in mind that we only send emails out very periodically pre-RV, but post-RV emails may go out as often as daily. So let's go to the Q&A. Our first caller here is area code 347. That's 347. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Praveen from New York. I have a question. I heard that the Kurdistan, they paid out at the reinstituted rate of some kind. Is that for some of their employees or something? Is that the case?
I'm quite sure that there are some small pockets of people that have received a stepped-up value on their currencies. I'm not personally aware of that, but I wouldn't be surprised if that were to happen. I myself would be surprised if that is happening, but I suspect that if that's happened, they're probably going to get less money than if they sat and waited for the proper revaluation of the currency globally. But I cannot confirm or deny that that's happened. I just have no personal knowledge of it.
Okay, and I also heard that the IMF, they requested additional documentation, I think, from the CBI, and they got it.
My understanding is that's true, and that's why the IMF has said, as far as they're concerned, they can proceed with the reinstitution of their currency.
Okay, what about the U.S.? What if the U.S. then holds it? I forgot, what was that agency called? The U.S.
I'm sorry, say that again.
No, what agency? I think the U.S. What if they hold it back again? They can do that too if they want, even if the IMF says to go.
I don't know that the United States unilaterally could do it, but I do believe that the IMF and the CBI might respect the United States if they continue this understandable concern about Iran. They do not want the reinstitution of the currency and then its ultimate revaluation to end up putting either U.S. dollars or revalued Iraqi dinar in the hands of the Iranian. And I think that's one of the reasons why we have our task force strategically located in the area. We want to put Iran on notice that the United States is not going to tolerate any nonsense from them, but we'll just have to see how that plays out. But irrespective of that, remember, when the IMF says they want the currency reinstituted, there are some things that still need to happen in country. I mentioned them, the formation of the new government. They're going to recalibrate the 2019 budget, and they're going to definitely, the auctions are going to have to stop. So all of these things are integral to the reinstitution of the currency.
No, but what I mean is they tried to revalue again in January, but the U.S. I think stopped it. So that was even before all of this.
That's my understanding as well. And again, it has to do with Iran.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye. Okay, our next caller is area code 312. That's 312. I'm going to take a wild guess that that's Les.
You don't have to take a wild guess, but you're right.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Good afternoon, Jim.
Okay, Les.
Yeah. So we're going to blame everything. We're going to blame everything on Iran. Okay. I'll go with you on that.
Well,
we'll just blame Iran.
Well, I'm not blaming everything on Iran. As I said, internally they got to form the government. They have to redo the budget because they've paid out at the 1180 rate, and they have to stop the auctions. But Iran is clearly if Iran was out of the picture, in my opinion, we'd be done in the next 30 days.
Well, they did say, what was that, Monday, that Kurdistan had paid contractors at the new rate. That's what was said. They were paid at the new rate, the contractors. They didn't say anybody else. They just said contractors.
That may well be the case. I don't know that for a fact. And as I said, I would not be surprised if certain pockets were jumped the gun a little bit. You know what Oklahoma Sooner is?
No. What is it?
Well, the Sooners, the reason they're called the Sooners is because the Oklahoma Territory was opened and people could go in and get free land. They just had to remove the stakes and place their own identity there. And the Sooners were the people that snuck in a couple of days before, managed to get by the Indians and managed to get by the United States troops, and they claimed some of the land prematurely. That's kind of what's going on here. I'm quite sure there are people that been able to circumvent the process and have enriched themselves. And, that's just throughout history. There's always somebody that's been able to circumvent the system to their own benefit, and that's probably what's happened.
So if that is the case, and Kurdistan usually does things sooner than everyone else over there in the country, then we could probably have a revaluation or a revalued currency before the month is out, as the Prime Minister is touting.
It's possible. I'm not saying it's probable, but it's possible. And you have to remember that the Kurds have been creating problems. The Kurds have some leverage because of the oil wells in Kirkuk and because they could be a fly in the ointment in all of this being resolved. So they're obviously using whatever leverage they have. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of these guys, if they grease the skids a little bit for some of these guys. That doesn't necessarily mean that the reinstitution is going to happen any sooner, but it probably does mean that it is going to happen because they can't pay them out at a rate that's never going to happen.
Well, with IMF pushing them to revalue is another sign of assurance that these people probably will get it done before the month of June. If Kurdistan is already paying out contractors.
Let's hope that's the case. Let's put it this way. It's not a bad sign.
Not a bad sign, right. Okay.
No, it's not a bad sign. It means we're leaning in that direction. So anything that leans toward a reinstitution is good news. And as I've said, if the worst case scenario is January of 2020, we're still in good shape.
All right. Well, thank you much, Jim.
Okay.
Say hi to the professor,
yes,
and thanks for taking the call.
Yes, sir.
All
Take
right.
care, Les.
Bye-bye. You too. Bye.
Well, Les is our last caller for this afternoon. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to the call. I hope that those of you calling in for the first time either today or if they listen to the replay in the next couple of days will contact us and get our initial package. It has, again, a lot of information. You're under no obligation by receiving the package. You're free to contact us if you have any questions, and we will be happy to assist you, and there will be no consultation fee. Our next call is scheduled for next Wednesday. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we'll try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. Failing that, however, we will be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Have a great week, everyone. Look forward to speaking with you again next Wednesday. Bye-bye.